You ever hold on to a moment so tightly, so desperately, that you almost believe just for a second that life might finally give you the softness you've been denied for years? Well, this is a story about the day I learned that even your own blood can turn celebration into humiliation. A day that should have been filled with pride, joy, and a quiet sense of triumph, only to be shattered by the people who were supposed to love me the most. My name is Emily Carter, and this is the story of how my nephew threw my graduation cake on the floor, told me to eat it off the ground, and how that moment, cruel and childish as it was, gave me the strength to walk away from a family that never wanted me to rise. Before we begin, if you've ever survived a toxic family or fought your way out of a place that tried to dim your light, drop a comment, share your story, or simply let me know you're here. And if you want more real stories about revenge, justice, and emotional survival, don't forget to subscribe, because today, I'm telling you everything. I grew up in a small Midwestern town, one of those places where people pretend everything is picture perfect on the outside, but inside the walls of your own home, there's a silence heavy enough to crush you. I was the youngest daughter, the unexpected one, the one my mother said she was too old to be chasing around, the one my sister, Rebecca, blamed for ruining her childhood. Rebecca was 10 years older, loud, charismatic, beautiful, and according to my mother, the only one with real potential. Where Rebecca was groomed, praised, and protected, I was the afterthought, the spare, the shadow. Our mother worshipped Rebecca. And when Rebecca had a son at 19, Evan, it was like mother suddenly found her purpose again. Evan wasn't just a child. He was the family's golden heir, the sun around which everyone else was expected to orbit. Meanwhile, I grew up earning quiet achievements. Honor roll, volunteer awards, a scholarship here and there. Things no one bothered attending, celebrating, or sometimes even acknowledging. But I kept going. Even when mother said college was a waste of time. Even when Rebecca joked that I wasn't smart enough to survive real courses. Even when Evan called me Aunt Nobody. I kept going. And eventually, I made it. I graduated with a bachelor's degree in education, a milestone no one else in my family had ever reached. I wanted just once for them to be proud of me. Just once. To look at me and see more than a mistake. I was foolish for hoping that. But hope is a stubborn thing. It clings to you even when you know better. My graduation ceremony was on a warm May afternoon. Sunlight filtered through the high windows of the auditorium, making the sea of caps and gowns shimmer like a living constellation. I should have been thinking about my future, my career, my dreams, the world opening up before me. Instead, I kept scanning the crowd, looking for them. My mother, my sister, my nephew. They didn't come, but I wasn't shocked. Disappointed, yes. Crushed a little, but shocked? Not at all. Still, I held on to this tiny flicker of hope that they would at least show up afterward to celebrate. Maybe just a small dinner. A hug. A congratulations, Emily. Anything. After the ceremony, a couple of friends took me out. They bought me a bouquet wrapped in cheap cellophane and a slice of cheesecake with a candle stuck in it. It was simple, sweet, and genuine, everything my family wasn't. When I got home, I discovered something unexpected. A cake. A whole graduation cake, sitting on the kitchen counter. Red frosting, black piping, silver edible stars. It was beautiful. And the fridge was full of food. My sister must have actually planned something. A surprise celebration, maybe. My chest tightened with this unfamiliar mixture of relief and gratitude and longing. I had waited so long for something, anything from them. Maybe today was different. Maybe they finally saw me. Maybe. Then I heard the laughter. They walked in through the front door, like they owned the place. Rebecca first, heels clicking on the linoleum, sunglasses still on despite being indoors, arms full of shopping bags. Mother followed, grumbling about the heat and fanning herself dramatically. Then Evan, my nephew, the boy who had grown up learning that rules, respect, and consequences were for everyone else. He strutted in with a smirk like he was the star of his own show. Emily, Rebecca said, waving a hand dismissively, as if she was greeting a coworker she barely knew. Congrats or whatever. Mother didn't say anything at all, just looked at me like she was assessing the results of something she had never believed in. But it was Evan's voice that cut through me. So, Aunt Emmy actually graduated? From a real college? No way. He barked out a laugh like it was the funniest thing he'd heard all week. He was 14 now, old enough to know better, old enough to see the effect of his words, old enough to stop. But he didn't. He never did. Still, I tried to brush it off. This could still be a good day. They were here. They had brought a cake. Maybe this really was a turning point. Dinner started awkwardly. I heated up the food Rebecca had dumped on the counter. Mother complained about the seasoning. Evan scrolled on his phone the entire time, blasting videos loud enough to be obnoxious. No one asked about my degree. No one asked about my ceremony. No one asked how I felt. I should have expected it. But expectation and hope are very different things. Finally, I brought the cake out. It was the only thing I was truly excited for, the one visual symbol of my achievement. The one moment I thought might be meaningful. Let's take a picture, I suggested softly. Just one. For memory. Mother sighed. Rebecca rolled her eyes. Evan groaned dramatically. But they stood up. We took the picture. And for one breath, just one, I let myself believe the day had been worth it. That breath didn't last long. Evan grabbed the cake knife before I could. He held it like a toy sword, slashing it through the air. Careful, I said gently. It's a new knife. He rolled his eyes. Oh, relax, Aunt Emmy. It's just a stupid cake. Just a stupid cake. I swallowed the sting. Can I cut the first slice? I asked quietly. Evan smirked. You?
Why? You didn't buy it.
The room froze. Rebecca. Evan. Don't start. Mother. Just give him the knife. He's a child. A child? He was nearly my height. He knew exactly what he was doing. But I forced a smile. It's fine. Just be careful. Evan grinned wide. A grin that said he was about to do something cruel. A grin he had inherited from the two women who never told him no. And before I could move, before I could speak, before I could even breathe, he grabbed the cake with both hands, lifted it, looked me dead in the eyes, and threw it onto the floor. Time stopped. The cake hit the tiles with a sickening, wet thud. Frosting splattered across my shoes. Silver stars rolled under the table. The air smelled like vanilla and heartbreak. Mother gasped. Rebecca sputtered. But Evan? He laughed. A loud, sharp, mocking laugh that ignited something deep inside me. Eat it off the ground, and Emmy, he sneered. That's what people like you do.
People like me.
The room spun. Something inside my chest cracked open. A soundless break years in the making. And as his words settled, I understood something. This wasn't about a cake. It wasn't even about the moment. It was about a lifetime. A lifetime of being dismissed. A lifetime of being belittled. A lifetime of being treated as the family's punching bag. This was the moment they showed me exactly what I meant to them. Nothing. There's a particular kind of silence that follows humiliation. A hollow, ringing silence that feels almost unreal. As if the world steps back to admire the wreckage of your dignity. That's the silence that filled the kitchen after Evan threw my graduation cake on the floor. No one breathed. No one spoke. The only sound was the slow, sticky drip of frosting sliding down the cabinet doors, like the room itself was bleeding. Evan crossed his arms, chest puffed out, a cruel smile set on his face. A smile he had never learned to hide, because no one ever taught him accountability. He looked proud of himself. Proud of breaking me. Proud of reminding me, as my family always had, that in this house I was disposable. My throat tightened. My hands shook. My heartbeat was a sharp, pulsing ache behind my ribs. And yet, I didn't cry. Not because it didn't hurt,
but because something inside me,
a small, buried ember I had carried for years, suddenly flared to life. A realization. They were never going to love me. Not the way a family should. Not at all. My mother was the first to speak, breaking the silence with a tone that sounded more inconvenienced than outraged. "For heaven's sake, Evan," she muttered. "You made a mess. Couldn't you just put it on the table?" Put it on the table?
He threw my cake.
He humiliated me on the most important day of my life. He told me to eat off the floor, like an animal. And her biggest concern
Was the mess.
Rebecca swung around to him, but her voice was soft, too soft. "Evan, honey, you can't do that," she said, like she was scolding a toddler who picked a flower he wasn't supposed to touch. "Emily worked hard for that cake." He shrugged. "So? It was ugly." My mother snorted a short, almost amused sound. Honestly, the writing was too much. All those colors were gaudy. Something inside me twisted. I bent down slowly, not to clean the cake yet, but to look at it. The frosting was smeared across the tile in swirls of red and silver. The plastic graduation cap topper was cracked in half, like a broken promise. Rebecca clicked her tongue. "Come on, Mom. Let's go to the living room. Emily can deal with this." Deal with this. Deal with your humiliation. Deal with our cruelty. Deal with the fact that you believed, even for a moment, that we'd treat you like a human being today. And the two of them walked away.
Just like that.
Leaving me kneeling on the cold floor with the remains of a dream I had foolishly placed in their hands. Evan didn't walk away. He lingered just long enough to stand above me, casting a shadow across the mess. He nudged a chunk of cake with his shoe. "Looks better down there," he smirked. That was it. That was the second the ember inside me exploded into something fierce. Not rage, not hatred.
Clarity.
I stood up slowly, not shaking from emotion anymore, but from a sudden, overwhelming stillness. A stillness that whispered, "You don't belong here. And you don't have to." Evan's smirk faltered as he looked up at me, for the first time seeing something in my eyes that unsettled him. I said nothing. Silence has a power that screams, "Never will." I stepped past him, walked to the sink, and washed my hands. Each swipe of water rinsed away a piece of the old me. The one who tried, begged, hoped. I dried my hands, looked at my reflection in the microwave door, and felt a calm settle into my bones. A calm born from truth. I owed them nothing. And I never would again. When I walked into the living room, they weren't talking about the cake.
They were talking about themselves.
Rebecca. God, Evan gets so bored in this house. He needs more activities. Mother. Maybe Emily can take him to some tutoring program. She's the one with the degree now. I laughed. A small, sharp laugh I didn't recognize as mine. They turned to me like I had interrupted something of importance. Mother frowned. "What's funny?" "My cake was just destroyed," I said quietly. "And you're talking about after-school programs?" "It's just a cake," Rebecca sighed, waving a hand. "You're so dramatic. You always have been." "You expected gratitude," Evan added with a smirk. Mother shook her head. "You're too sensitive, Emily. You always make everything about you." My breath caught. Everything about me? Everything? For years, I was the one doing everything for them. Paying their overdue electric bills. Covering Evan's school fees when Rebecca spent her money on vacations. Helping with groceries every month. Co-signing loans they couldn't get approved for themselves. Doing every chore, every request, every guilt trip. And now, even today, I wasn't allowed a moment. Not a slice of cake. Not a fragment of dignity. Rebecca leaned back on the couch. "You know, most families don't even celebrate college graduations. You should be grateful we showed up at all." They didn't show up to my ceremony. They didn't bring gifts. They didn't bring support. They brought cruelty. And suddenly,
I saw the scene for what it was.
not a disappointing day. A pattern. A lifetime. And I was done. "I think you should leave," I said softly. They stared at me. Rebecca laughed first loud, sharp, incredulous. "Leave? This is Mom's house." "No," I said. "This is my house. My name is on the mortgage. I pay the bills.
I keep the lights on. Not you."
My mother's eyes went cold. She hated when I reminded her of that fact. "You ungrateful girl," she hissed. We raised you. You owe us respect. Respect. Respect for what? For years of belittling? For neglect? For cruelty masked as parenting? I didn't say these things out loud. I didn't need to. Instead, I said,
No.
I don't. The room froze again. Mother stood. You're being ridiculous. Rebecca crossed her arms. So, what, you want us to leave because Evan dropped a cake? Threw. I corrected quietly. He threw it on the ground and told me to eat off the floor. Rebecca's jaw tightened, but only with annoyance, never shame. Oh my God, Emily.
He's a kid.
He was joking.
He wasn't, I said.
Mother snapped. You're being dramatic. That was the third time that word had been used. A weaponized label they had carved into my identity for years. Dramatic. Sensitive. Ungrateful. No more. I want you out, I said, voice steady.
Now.
Rebecca scoffed. You can't be serious. I walked to the front door, opened it, and gestured. I am. You can leave the food. Take everything else. They gaped at me, as if I had lost my mind. But I was the clearest I had ever been. Rebecca finally stormed past me. Mother followed, muttering a string of insults under her breath, each one meant to claw at me, pull me back into the role they had assigned me. Evan walked out last. He paused in the doorway, looked at me, and said, Why are you so mad? It was just a stupid cake. I stared at him, at the product of a family where empathy had never been required, and realized he might never understand. I didn't answer. He smirked again. Then he spit on my doorstep. One last act of dominance. One last attempt to remind me of my place. He jogged toward the car, laughing to himself. I closed the door slowly, firmly,
Completely.
It was the softest sound in the world, and the loudest ending to the life I had known. 2 hours later, at nearly midnight, my phone buzzed. A message from Rebecca. I expected an apology, not because she was capable of one, but because I knew her pride wouldn't allow her to leave things unresolved. Instead, the message said, Mom and I talked. We're done with you. Don't expect to hear from us again. Then another message. We're cutting ties. Don't contact us. My hands shook. Not from pain. From disbelief. They were cutting me off. After everything they had done, I waited for the tears, for the devastation. But instead, I felt something else. Relief. A quiet, surprising, beautiful relief. A weight I had carried for decades simply lifted. I whispered into the empty room. Good. After receiving those 2 messages. We're done with you. Don't contact us. We're cutting ties. I set my phone down on the counter. For years, even imagining those words would have destroyed me. But tonight, they didn't. Tonight, they sounded like freedom. I walked into the kitchen. The kitchen that still smelled faintly of frosting. The place where my humiliation had taken place just hours earlier. But instead of feeling broken, I felt grounded. Like I had finally stepped into a version of myself I had been too scared to claim. For the first time in my life, I wasn't reacting emotionally. I wasn't drowning in shame or guilt. My mind was clear.
Pain can do that to you.
It burns everything unnecessary away until all that's left is truth. I sat down at the table and made a list. Not out of anger. Out of clarity. A list of every bill I'd been paying. Every account I'd tied my name to. Every loan I had co-signed. Every responsibility that had quietly been dumped on my shoulders over the past decade. A decade of being treated like nothing while being expected to carry everything. And the deeper I went, the more the truth became undeniable. My family hadn't cut me off. They had freed me. They just didn't know it yet. Morning light streamed through my curtains, soft and golden. It felt like a fresh start, a clean slate the universe had placed directly into my palms. I brewed coffee, slowly, deliberately, letting the warmth seep into my hands. I didn't rush, didn't panic, didn't question myself. Instead, I opened my laptop and began the process of untying myself from them, one thread at a time. I started with the biggest, The co-signed car loan for Rebecca's SUV. She had begged me 3 years ago, telling me she needed the car for Evan's school, for doctor's appointments, for work. But her work turned out to be part-time at a salon she rarely showed up to. And most of her driving involved brunches, casino nights, and weekend trips with friends. The loan was in my name. The debt was in my name. The responsibility was in my name. While she drove around in luxury, I was the one making the payments whenever she forgot. Not anymore. I typed in the account number, logged in, and removed my automatic payments. Then I called the bank. A woman answered with a warm, polite voice. "How can I help you today?" "I'd like to remove myself from a co-signed loan," I said calmly. There was a pause. "May I ask why?" "Because the borrower no longer has any connection to me," I said. "And I will not be responsible for her choices anymore." A simple sentence. But it felt like reclaiming a piece of my soul. The process would take time. Letters, signatures, notices. But it was underway. Next, I tackled the utilities. My name powered their entire household because none of them could keep a bill paid on time. I canceled every account. Electric, gas, water, internet, all of it. Then the credit card I'd been paying off for years, the one Rebecca had promised to repay me for, but never did. I closed it, piece by piece. I dismantled the financial cage I had allowed myself to be locked into. By noon, I had severed every financial tie connecting me to them. Every bill, every service, every obligation. It felt like shedding a second skin. I expected silence for a few days, maybe weeks. But toxic people don't stay quiet when their conveniences are threatened. Just after 4 p.m., my phone buzzed. First with one message, then 3, then 10. I ignored them. Then the phone rang. Once, twice, 4 times. I didn't answer. On the 5th call, it stopped. A moment later, the voicemail icon blinked. But it wasn't Rebecca's voice. Or my mother's. It was Evan's. "Aunt Emmy, Mom says the power went out. She says your name was on the bill, and can you fix it? Please, please." For the first time in his life, he said please. But I wasn't moved. Not anymore. I deleted the voicemail without listening to the rest. Minutes later, another call came. Mother. I let it go to voicemail, too. But her message was nothing like Evan's. It was venom. "Emily, what have you done? The house is freezing, and the food in the fridge is spoiling. This is unbelievably childish. Turn the power back on, or so help me." Delete. Then Rebecca. Her anger was more frantic. "Emily, I just got a letter about the car loan. What the hell is wrong with you? You're ruining everything. Fix this. Fix it." Delete. The texts piled up. They shifted from anger to bargaining, to guilt-tripping, to insults, to more bargaining. People who have used you your entire life rarely know how to speak to you when you stop playing your part. I put the phone face down, made myself lunch, and hummed softly as I ate. Because for once, their chaos wasn't mine. I should have expected they would show up in person. It was almost sunset when I heard the pounding on my front door. Not knocking. Pounding. I didn't open it. The pounding continued. Then Mother's voice, shrill and furious. "Emily Carter, you open this door right now." I didn't move. Then Rebecca's voice, more desperate than angry. "Emily, please, he's a child. You can't punish him like this. You can't punish us like this." Punish. As if I had orchestrated revenge. As if their consequences were my cruelty. As if I was responsible for a world that had finally stopped enabling them. Evan's voice came next. Small, uncertain, trembling for the first time. "Aunt Emmy, I'm sorry. Can you open the door? Please." The first apology I had ever heard from him. But even then, I knew it wasn't real. It was survival, not remorse. I didn't open the door. Instead, I spoke through it. Calm, steady, and final. "I'm not punishing you. I'm removing myself. Everything you're dealing with now is yours, not mine. You can't do this." Rebecca cried. "I already did. Mother's voice turned low, furious. You're going to regret this, Emily. Family is forever. You can't just walk away. But she was wrong. Family isn't forever. Not the family you're born into. Only the family you choose. And I chose myself. I wish you well, I said softly. But I'm done. Then I walked away from the door. Their voices faded into the night. Eventually, they left, and I felt weightless. In the weeks that followed, something unexpected happened. Silence. Not the oppressive, suffocating silence I grew up with, but a peaceful one. A healing one. I went on walks, read books, laughed louder, slept deeper. My home felt different, brighter, without their presence, their judgment, their expectations, their constant demands. The air felt wider. I applied for jobs in nearby schools, went to interviews, met people who saw my degree and said, "Wow, congratulations." Simple words, but sincere. Sincerity was still new to me. One afternoon, I bought myself a new cake. A small one. Chocolate with raspberry filling. Not for a celebration. Not for anyone else. Just because I deserved sweetness in my life. I sat at my kitchen table, cut a slice, and ate it slowly, letting each bite remind me that I had survived something heavy. Something invisible. Something that took years to name. And as I finished the last bite, I whispered to myself, "You made it. Not through school. Not through a ceremony. But through a lifetime of being unseen. And you stepped out whole." If you're listening to this, maybe you know what it feels like to grow up in a house where you were the least loved, the most blamed, the easiest to hurt. Maybe you know what it's like to be the emotional punching bag, the scapegoat, the quiet one who carried everything and received nothing. Maybe you've been taught that leaving is betrayal, that boundaries are disrespect, that your pain is dramatic. But hear me. You are allowed to walk away. You are allowed to choose peace. You are allowed to start over. Blood is not a free pass for cruelty. Family is not built through obligation. And love is not earned through suffering. I am Emily Carter. And the day my nephew threw my graduation cake on the floor was the day I finally stood up. It wasn't the humiliation that changed me. It was the truth that followed. A truth that I hope you take with you today. Sometimes the most powerful revenge is simply refusing to stay where you are not valued. If this story resonated with you, or if you've ever had to walk away from people who treated you less than you deserve, tell me your experience in the comments. Your story matters. Your voice matters. And if you want more narratives about justice, healing, and reclaiming your power, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with someone who might need it. This is your narrator signing off. Until the next story, take care of your heart and choose yourself first.